Welcome back to Hasbro's Hide. As I mentioned in the last NELEZ video, I would give a quick update on the contest I shot at the Hide last weekend. And so it was great. It's a 22 precision rimfire shoot, 22 long rifle, and it was just a lot of fun. And they really ran a great setup. It's just a fantastic place and good group of people, as I mentioned before. But what I thought I'd do, and what I mentioned in the last video, is show you the rifle that was used to do that. And so let me zoom back here and let's take a look at this rifle. Now I'll have to show it. It's sitting on the bench. It's kind of a crowded bench, but here is the rifle as do it. Now, if you recognize what this is, that is a Ruger 1022, but it has had a few upgrades in its lifetime. And so let's go through those upgrades, and then we'll show you just a little bit more about this, and then we'll talk about the ammo used as well. And then we'll look at some of the targets it shoots, because it's just turned out to be a really exceptional gun. So first thing you'll recognize is this is not a factory Ruger stock. This is an Archangel stock, and it's pretty it's pretty reasonable, I should say. A good price. I think it was right about $100, maybe something like that. And you have adjustable cheek or comb and buttstock as well. Those adjustments work really good. Now, you can buy an upgrade that has a few other things like a tactile grip, which is on here, and a foam cheek piece and things like that, which I did, just so that you don't have quite such a plastic feel to the stock. And then this gets your cheek a little bit more comfortable, especially on hot days. It's kind of nice to have. So the Archangel stock, well worth the money. I've had no issues with rigidity or flexing or things like that with it, which you might expect perhaps out of a polymer stock, but it's composite and pretty nice and exceptional deal for the money. Well, let's move on up. Now, this is still the original receiver. Now, as I mentioned, this is not a really particularly expensive setup. I bought this gun originally used, well used, and it had the bull barrel hammer twist 18-inch barrel from Ruger. And that shot pretty well. It shot like 3/4 inch groups or something like that, as I remember. But so that's okay. But this had been reworked by whoever. I bought it used in a gun shop, and some of the screws for the mounts and all were stripped out, and I had to kind of fix those and clean them up and chase them a bit. Anyway, so I got that done, Loctited them in, got this rail on here nice and solid then to the receiver. The bolt is the original bolt. This has a kid charging handle and a kid extractor inside of it as well, and spring set with it. But the bolt's the original bolt that came with it. So these are very reasonable upgrades too, cost-wise. Looking at the scope is a Leupold VX2 6-18. So this is an old model of a Leupold scope, but an excellent model. It has a very fine crosshair. I had this on an F-class gun for a while. It's 40 millimeters, and yet still gathers a great deal of light. And 18 has proven to be pretty good at this at 50 yards anyway. Well, I've shot this silhouettes out to 200 with it, but I had to. By the way, I had to upgrade this to a 20 MOA rail to even reach those kinds of distances with the original scope I had on here, which was a Burris rimfire. And so 20 MOA scale, or 20 MOA rail, and the VX2 6-18 Leupold scope. So I got this used. I got this used more than 15 years ago at Bud's Gun Shop. And then it was an exceptionally good deal, because this was like, one of the popular scopes at the time. And I took a chance. It was missing a turret cap, right? So it's like, oh no, what's the chance? And then I started reading about their warranty service and etc. And they were just, it was just excellent. So I called them up to order one. They said, no problem, we'll just ship it to you for free. And so that's a great customer service by them. And just an excellent scope. So that works really well in this. So the final piece, well, one of the final pieces here, is this barrel. This is a Feddersen 18-inch barrel. I think technically it's an 18 1/8 or something like that, but 18-inch barrel. And this thing, bull barrel, no fluting, target crown, but just transforms the gun. The gun shot really well before, but holy cow, this thing makes it shoot lights out. And so if you don't know Feddersen, I'll put a link in the descriptions on this thing. Check them out, because It's also an exceptional value. I don't think I spent, at most I spent was maybe right at $200 for this 18-inch barrel. Their 16 1/4 or something like that is the one they say is their most accurate. It's less than that. But this thing shoots so well, I don't know how you could get better. Well, the final piece then beyond this is the trigger. Now, I had original trigger in it, and I thought I was doing pretty good until I shot a friend's that had a Feddersen barrel and a BX trigger. Now, you can spend, this is Ruger's BX trigger, and you can go out and spend a lot of money on triggers and components for a 10-22, and they're not going to shoot much better than this one, I'm telling you. You get a full-out custom kit, things like that, and they are awesome guns. But for the money you'll spend, you know, this is a really good setup for less money than that will be. But certainly, if you want to, I mean, you can't go wrong with Kidd, Vorkwarts, and people like that. They just make excellent stuff. But I've tried to take the best of all the different worlds. An exceptional barrel, I think. A good trigger. The BX trigger is very good. We'll check the trigger pull here in just a minute, so you can get an idea on that. But the Archangel stock, and this scope will produce some crazy good targets. And so let me reposition the camera. We'll do a trigger pull, and then we'll look at some of the targets and results from the PRS shoot, but also just some setup and practice I did with the gun before that shoot to show you kind of what this can do. We'll do a trigger pull test here on it now. I don't have my bipod. I've taken it off to shoot this just on a bench rest. So we'll just sort of balancing it here a little bit. Hopefully I won't knock it over. But I want to show you it's clear, magazine's empty, chamber's clear, and gun is clear as well. So let's take a look now and see what this BX trigger does. Now I have this Lyman digital trigger scale, and this thing's pretty nice. I like it pretty well. I've not had any issues with it, and it's nice in that it repeats, but it also tracks the averages, so you can do several pulls and it'll calculate the average for you. Just a little time-saving step. So let's do this. Now you got to put this in line with the stock and pull straight back and try this. So let's see what we get. Well, I guess I need to arm it first. That would be best. Let's reset this. To arm it, you have to press this ready button. So let's go ahead and we'll clear this out, arm it, and now we'll put our trigger pull. Put it right in the middle of the trigger and pull straight back. Just nice, smooth, steady pull. 2 pounds, 0.9 ounces. So let's do it again. Hit the ready button, reset our rifle, and let's try it again. £2 pounds, 2 ounces, 2.7 ounces. So let's reset. We'll do it again. You'll find there is some technique to getting this to repeat, but you got to kind of put it on the same place on the trigger and pull, you know, nice steady pulls. There you go. That's probably better. 2 pounds, 0.8 ounces. That's closer to the first one. And we'll do it one more time here, and then we'll look at our average. So I got it right in the middle of that trigger, just a nice steady pressure, and 2.14. So if you look at our average now, we'll see 2 pounds, 1.5 ounces. And so that's pretty good from a factory trigger, factory BX trigger, no modifications, anything like that done to it. And I've been really happy. So pretty good trigger, excellent barrel, and the rest, all this stuff is just stuff you can buy. Buy the scope used, buy whatever scope. This doesn't necessarily matter, right? The scope, as long as it's good for you and it works well for you. So let's go ahead and take a look at some targets here, and I'll reposition the camera again. All right, let's take a look at some of the targets. Now these are the targets I did to practice before the PRS shoot, just trying to get an idea of what ammo will shoot. So I had some Ely Force 50 grain. Those are pretty heavy bullets, but they seem to shoot pretty good. The Force is a faster, I believe it's 1,250 feet per second, and it's what they call, I think it's a two-stage powder or something like, they have some terminology for it, but it's to get a faster velocity in a semi-automatic rifle, supposedly is what they made this for, as I understand it. And so this is a 50 grain, and it shot pretty well. But I kept going. It's okay, I want to try some more common ammunition, maybe, because that's not horribly expensive, but if you buy it, you know, in bricks. But so CCI standard velocity. Now, you know, yeah, you know, standard velocity is okay. I didn't weight sort that or anything. I just grabbed a box and shot it. Now here's the Ely Force 40. Now this is what I ended up shooting the match with, and you'll see why in a minute. But this first one now, these are 5 round, or actually I'm sorry, that's 10 and that's 5, and this is 10. And it starts, I had the first one, that's the cold bore shot, and then they all started ripping through the same hole. Now the overall size of this is 678. The inside of that though is under a half an inch. That's all 50 yards, of course, is what we're shooting at. Well, then I shoot, after that, the Ely Club. And if you can see that, 0.329 inches. And that was pretty awesome. Okay, so I think that could be the one I'm going to shoot. But it wasn't quite as consistent, as I say, you'll see in another target, as the Ely Force seemed to be. And then this is a Gila Super Extra. And you know, yeah, it was just okay, not so great. So let me show you then the next target. So I go back and I keep practicing a little more. Now a friend of mine had given me some Ely Team to try. He says, you've got to try this. He said, it's got the same basic construction and powder and all and wax and as the Ely 10X, but it's cheaper, so you can practice more with this and shoot 10X in there. Well, I have one box of 10X and I shoot it occasionally just to test, but I don't buy it. It's too expensive for what I want to spend. But if you can see that, yeah, it's really grouping good, and I would consider that one's probably me. Again, this was cold bore, but you know, that much off could probably be me. Well, then I kept shooting the Ely Team, and it's like, holy cow! Now this is not some super high-end custom gun. This is a gun anybody can build. 0.275 inches. Just ripping. So I may shoot that in the future, but I got to buy it in bulk because locally I bought some just so I would have a few, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But it was like $16 and change a box, and so yeah, that's too much. I don't want to spend that unless I'm going to shoot like a 15-round match. But here's the key thing. This Ely Team has just a noticeably different wax on it, on the case and on the bullet. And I was noticing that, okay, so I shot this, and then right after shooting this, I shot the Force. Now the Force before had done a decent group, but not like this, 0.297. Now the key thing about Ely Force, this is faster, so it's 1,250 feet per second. I think this barrel likes a little faster, higher velocity, the way it seems to shoot, but I think it was the wax, because what I started doing was then shooting 2 of these Team to get some of that wax in the chamber particularly, and then shoot the Force. And I kept drilling the target like this. I mean, just crazy good. So that wax, actually, if they put it onto the Force ammunition, it would be awesome. But because the Force supposedly has a paraffin-based wax, and I understand it, and someone may correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is paraffin and beeswax combination that they put on this one. But it's like, holy cow, I took this group on a Force. Now, the reason a Force is even more important is I paid like $40 for 300. Their small brick of a 300 of it, and that's a lot. That's affordable. That's not bad. And so I have to get more. I'm out. I shot it all up. I gave some to some friends, and their guns started shooting really well with it too. So here's the Ely Force 50 again. I just shot it again, and I got about the same size group, and it shoots good, better than standard velocity and things like that. And then here's the Ely Club again. It came back in at 0.492, where it was 0.379, I think it was, on the first one. So it's consistent. It shoots pretty good. There's no doubt it's a good ammunition. But this Ely Team, well, just smoking it. But then the Force, with just a couple of these, will do it. So what I did in the match, just to explain it again, was the match is a target like this. And this is the first target I shot. And so you have 4 siders, and that's it. So the first 2 are the Ely Team to get some wax in that chamber. And then I shoot nothing but the Ely Force. The Ely Team, the first 2 Ely Force to kind of get it cycled, get it clearing back out, and then shot the rest of this target. Now, I'd never shot this target before, this IBS. It's a bench rest target for rimfire. And it pretty good. I mean, it's a pretty fun target to shoot, and it really tells you a lot about yourself and about your rifle. And so I shot that, and I shot 239. Yeah, you know, it's okay. It's okay, not knowing what to expect. So that put me in the competition, but I was behind by quite a bit. I think the top score in the first round maybe was 245, as I believe. But you can see there, just the size of this is tiny, this center section. In fact, let's just measure that. As I remember, I think it was 3/8 of an inch. Wouldn't you know it? As soon as I want to measure it, my battery goes dead in my calipers. One moment, we'll get a new battery. All right, get a new battery in. Let's take a look. Now this is the center, the white portion of the target, and it's 3/8 of an inch. I've already checked the outside of the green, and that's a 1/2 an inch. To get a 10, or get a 10, you have to be within the green. So you can cut the green, but like normal, you have to cut this edge of the green or be inside of it. But to get an X, you have to be entirely within it. It can't cut the green. And so these are two examples of X's. This one's not. While it's within the green, it creased and folded back within the white, it creased and folded back the green. And so that one doesn't count. There's another example of that here. And so another one here. Just to give you an idea of the scoring and difficulty of shooting this target. I'd never shot that target before, and I just thought this is an awesome target for practicing too, because it really tells you a lot about how your gun's doing, and you get, I think, some better feedback besides blowing everything through one hole. Certainly, 5-shot groups and that, you might get good information, but I just like the idea and the direction that they went with for this target. So that's my first one, 239. Now, I had never shot it again before. I didn't know what was competitive. What ends up being, I was 6 points behind. The first round score was 245. And so then, of course, we keep track of all the X's. Well, here's my next target. And I got 1 X, but I upped my consistency, so 244. And so this put me, I think, they could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I was in the lead by a couple of points maybe here at this point. And so just more consistent. And you can see along the way, then, it's repeating pretty well through there. And this much air, there was a little bit of wind. I would say it's the wind. It's the difference between the ammo and the shooter, and probably mostly the shooter. But the shooter's consistent. So here's the last target, and here's the very last one. I'll show you the bottom of this one too here, so you can see it maybe as well. So finished strong anyway, right? A couple more X's, same exact score. And I shot this, and I just sort of, I thought it was going to be okay, and I didn't feel so good about the target until I walked down range. And you start looking at this, through your scope is one thing. You walk down, you appreciate that 50 yards away. Pretty cool. Now, a lot of people shoot a lot better than this. I know that, and it's nothing else. But for me, this is a pretty good day. And then the aggregate score, then I was able to win the contest. But this, out of basically a pretty budget rifle build. I mean, just parts. An old gun that had a fairly worn receiver, upgrading the stock and putting in a BX trigger, which is not expensive. The barrel from Fedderson's very reasonable, and a used scope that I'd had for 15 years. But I bought it used, and it just shoots lights out. So anyway, I thought you might like to see that. It was a really awesome day, fun contest. Not just fun because I won. It was just fun to shoot this. It was just a really good time to do that. And so thought you might like to see that, get an idea of this gun, because there is no reason that anybody can't build this for themselves. It's not hard to put together a Ruger, to change the barrel out, anything like that. It's really quite easy to do. There's tons of videos. I won't bother making one on how to build it. But pretty fun and cheap to shoot. So that's really cool, and I just really enjoyed it. To close this video out, I wanted to share with you a rifle I was able to pick up. I sold a few things, sold a rifle and some other stuff, and then did some horse trading and was able to pick up this rifle. And this is a CZ 457 with the At-One stock on it. Now, will this be the successor to the one I just showed you? I don't know. It's got to be 0.25 inches or a half MOA. And so we'll see. I've done some initial target shooting with it, but before I'm going to post anything on it, I want to do a couple more things to it. One, this is just a really cheapy Pine Ridge, I don't know who makes it, scope. It was on a Marlin 22 mag that I bought years ago. And but I had to put it under because I could only get rings that would fit this 11mm dovetail. I'm waiting for a mount to come in, which will give me a Picatinny rail. And so when we do that, then we're going to mount a Vortex Strike Eagle 4-24 on it, and we should be able to do even better. But it shot pretty amazing. Again, I'll wait to show you these things, but we shot well under half an inch at 50 yards within the first 75 rounds fired through this gun. So that's encouraging. Okay, so under a 1/2 inch with a 3x9 cheap scope. Pretty good. Pretty good. So anyway, I thought you might like to see that, just because I'll probably do a series now on precision rimfire shooting. I just really enjoy it, and I've done a little bit over the years, not a lot, and going to do more. Plan on doing more. So let's see how good this does. This is a pretty new model for CZ, and we'll check it out. It's threaded, so we can put a suppressor on there if I decide to go that way. And but right now we're going to shoot it just as it comes out of the box. The only thing I will do maybe is there's a trigger mod where you can just change the trigger spring now. I've already checked it, and I adjusted it as far as it can go, and it goes to 2 pounds 10 ounces on average. And so that's fine, but that's not as light as I want it to be. And so you change out a spring in it, and you can cut that in half. And so we'll see where it goes. We'll get that in, we'll put that spring in there, and I'll do a little install showing that, because this is a really unique trigger adjustment in here on this 457 from CZ. You can adjust the pre-travel, you can adjust the post-travel, and you can adjust the pull weight. I think it's a really cool design, and that they let it do that. And to feel the trigger, it's really smooth, breaks clean. I really have no issue with the trigger. I just want a lighter pull. And so that's a pretty easy thing to do. And I'll share with you where I get that from, and all how to go through that. But anyway, will it be a successor to that, or competitor to that maybe? We'll see, because I'll still shoot that in semi-automatic matches for sure, or anything I need to shoot rapid follow-up shots. But pure accuracy and slower fire, bench rest kind of thing, we may end up shooting this, but we'll see how it does. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.